and there were constant footsteps, pacing footsteps. There was a clear crunch crunch of one foot going in front of the other all around the sides of the cabin.
Hey you, like and subscribe right now, or this spider will be under your bed tonight, and it will eat you.
My boyfriend Sean and I went on a trip to Vermont in the summer of 2016. I booked us a stay in an Airbnb that was listed as off-grid cabin. It had a few hundred reviews with a 5-star rating, so I didn't think it looked sketchy. The cabin was an old one-room cabin with a pot-belly stove and a loft area. There was no electricity and it was in a remote part of Vermont down an old dirt road. There was one house about a half a mile away that was owned by the host and she was away, so we were alone. We got there around 4 p.m. and had a really nice evening, cooking dinner and playing board games by candlelight. We hiked all day and were exhausted by 10. So I went up to the loft to sleep while my boyfriend decided to sit outside and smoke. About 20 minutes later, while I was in that space between deep sleep and consciousness, I was jolted awake by a large banging sound on the side of the cabin. Before I can yell down, John yelled up asking me if it was me. Confused and feeling like I must be dreaming, I groggily yelled, "No, was that you?" He said no, but he did not seem too worried since he was sitting outside and he did not see anyone. We go camping frequently, so it takes a lot for us to get freaked out by random noises in the night. We figured it was probably a tree branch that broke off and fell against the cabin. I started to fall asleep again when there was another loud bang-like sound from another part of the cabin. At this, I jumped out of the bed and climbed down from the loft. I met Sean as he was coming through the door. He told me to grab all the sharp objects that I could find and go back into the loft. He was putting on a calm demeanor, but I could tell he was a little freaked out. I asked him what he thought it was, and he cautiously said that he didn't know. He said he didn't see anything when he was outside, but he thought he might have heard some footsteps. As we were whispering, we heard a small, slow scraping noise that trailed for about 3 feet against the wall of the cabin, then silence again. I was pretty scared at this point and didn't know what to do. Our car was parked about 100 feet away from the cabin, so we would have to face whatever was out there in the dark in order to get to it, which is probably what they wanted. I was also afraid that if this was a human, that they might have done something like slash the tires or block our ability to get back down the driveway. Tom told me to stay very quiet and go back up the loft while he sat downstairs and waited. He had a hunting knife and a large stick, and I had a few steak knives, but otherwise we were sitting ducks. The downstairs cabin had huge windows on 3 walls. Half of them were just screens. So if someone was outside, they could easily be watching us, or could slash through the screen to get inside. I wanted to stay downstairs, but Sean ordered me to go upstairs, saying that it would be easier to fight this guy without me there if it came to that. I went up and sat in the middle of the bed, clutching an array of knives in my fists. I don't think I ever listened so intently before. Sean yelled out hello to see if he could get any response or perhaps scare away if it was an animal. We heard nothing for what felt like 20 minutes. Then the scraping sound came back, much louder, like someone was dragging a rake or a hoe across the side of the cabin. I heard clear methodical footsteps trailing off around the side of the cabin. John then came up to the loft and pulled the ladder up. He said he did not like how they could see him, but he could not see them. And if they came in the cabin, he could at least get the jump on them from up there. We sat on the bed in silence. I was looking at him in terror. It was probably around midnight at this point, and I realized we were going to be stuck in the cabin until morning. Noises continued and intensified. There was more banging that seemed to be coming from all different sides of the cabin. Intermittently, the scraping returned. This couldn't have been an animal. The sounds were too methodical. We didn't hear any grunting like there was a bear or a bobcat. And there were constant footsteps, pacing footsteps. There was a clear crunch crunch of one foot going in front of the other all around the sides of the cabin. There would be pauses of 10-20 minutes interval, then it would all start up again. At one point there was a strange rattling sound on the outside, like someone was trying to shake or climb the pipe on the outside of the cabin that fed into the potbelly stove. This carried on for hours. Sean and I just laid in that bed, paralyzed in silent fear, staring into each other's terrified faces. I kept waiting to hear the front door burst open or the screen window rip. I was convinced that we were both about to be murdered, and every gruesome possibility kept playing in my head. I have never been that terrified, but no one came into the cabin. We never heard any voices, whispers, deranged cackling or anything. Just the loud scraping, banging, rattling, and the footsteps. Finally, around 5 in the morning, we started to hear roosters in the distance, and the loft was slowly lit by the early dawn light. The sounds finally stopped. I got about 2 hours of sleep because we had to drive him to Pennsylvania later that day. My car was thankfully fine. We packed everything as quickly as possible to get the heck out of there. Sean looked around the cabin trying to find the scraping marks or clear footprints, but there was nothing. I messaged the Airbnb host to tell her about the experience, and she said it must have been a porcupine. If you could find a porcupine that makes loud banging noises and can walk like a human, let me know. To this day, we debate about what it could have been. Sean thinks it was a crazy local trying to scare us away. Either way, I'm really glad I was not murdered that night.